The twin suns of the planet Torval glowed low in the horizon, casting long shadows across the violet jungles and blue-leaf trees. The skies above shimmered with soft gold, while strange birds soared through the air, leaving streaks of light in their wake. High in orbit, a small human scout ship drifted slowly across the upper atmosphere, scanning for energy readings and signs of life. Inside the vessel stood Lieutenant Darren Wells, a lone explorer from Earth assigned to chart and study uninhabited systems. His mission was simple: observe, collect report. He had been on Torval for 2 weeks, and so far had found nothing beyond beauty's silence and the sound of wind through alien branches. But that changed when his scanners picked up a faint life signal moving alone through the deep jungle. It was not a large reading, barely stronger than that of a child. Darren hesitated for a moment, staring at the blip on his screen, before grabbing his gear and stepping outside into the thick, humid air of Torval's forests. He moved carefully, pushing aside glowing vines and stepping over mossy roots. As the signal grew stronger, the jungle was alive with motion, and sound. Creatures rustled in the treetops, and the ground seemed to pulse faintly beneath his boots. After an hour of hiking, Darren reached a clearing and froze. There, standing alone in the middle of glowing grass, was a small alien child. She was no taller than his waist. Her skin shimmered silver in the sunlight, with faint blue patterns glowing across her face, and arms. Her eyes were large, deep violet, and filled with something between wonder and fear. She stared at him, unmoving. Darren raised his hands slowly and knelt down. "Hey there," he said softly. "Are you lost?" She did not speak, but tilted her head slightly and raised a hand in quiet greeting. Her eyes never left his. Darren took a cautious step forward. "I won't hurt you, I promise." The child nodded once. "All right," he said, "let's find your home." She walked toward him slowly, then turned and pointed toward the distant mountains in the east. Darren glanced in that direction, then back to her and nodded. Together they began to walk. The journey through the jungle was slow and quiet. The child, whom Darren began calling Zaya, said nothing, but her presence was calming. She moved gracefully, avoiding thorns and stepping over roots, as if the forest itself guided her. Darren watched her closely, noticing how leaves parted when she approached and birds quieted when she passed. At night they rested near streams where glowing fish swam under glassy surfaces. Zaya touched a tree, and it bloomed with light, creating shelter and warmth. Darren marveled at the connection she seemed to share with her world. He offered her food from his rations, but she declined. Instead, she picked fruit from nearby branches and shared it with him. It tasted sweet like honey and morning dew. On the third day, the trees began to thin and the mountain path rose sharply above them. Darren's legs ached, but Zia moved without complaint. At the peak, he saw it. Nestled in the valley below, surrounded by glowing trees and waterfalls, was a village unlike anything he had ever seen. Houses shaped from living trees, bridges made of vines and stones floating in midair. The entire place pulsed with energy and light. Zaya led the way down the slope. As they entered the village, dozens of alien eyes turned to them. The villagers stepped forward, their silver skin gleaming in the light. Darren felt 100 gazes fall on him as he instinctively placed himself between Zaya and the crowd. Then something unexpected happened. The villagers knelt, not to him, to her. From the largest tree emerged a tall elder woman, her robe woven from starlight and night. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes held the depth of galaxies. She stepped forward and looked at Darren. "You returned her," she said, her voice like soft thunder. "I found her in the jungle," Darren replied. Confused, she was alone. "I just wanted to help." The elder smiled gently. She was not lost, she was sent. "What?" "Zaya is of the royal bloodline, heir to our sacred leadership. Before any heir may rule, they must undergo the trial of spirit. They are placed alone in the wild to find their way home. Only then may they be chosen." But she did not return alone, Darren said, still unsure what that meant. "No," the elder replied. "She returned with you." That was not expected. She turned to the crowd. "Our ancestors watched the choices of the young closely. They do not speak with words, but with action. The path one chooses reveals the soul's self. Found a stranger, she chose not to return through power or pride, but with a companion. Darren looked at Zaya, who now stood tall before the villagers, her glowing patterns brighter than before. She chose who the elder said, and so we must honor her choice. Wait, Darren said, shaking his head. I'm just a scout. I was doing my duty. I didn't mean to interfere. But you did, the elder said. You interfered with kindness, with patience, with respect, and with no desire for reward. These are marks of a guardian. A new circle formed around Zaya, and Darren. The villagers began to sing a low, rhythmic chant, and lights spiraled to the air above them. Stars began to twinkle in a pattern unfamiliar to Darren, but clearly meaningful to the people here. The elder raised her arms. Zaya, you have completed the trial not through conquest, but through connection. Your choice has been seen, and accepted. This human shall be your guardian, chieftain, protector, and guide as you lead our people. Darren's heart raced. I never asked for this. Zaya stepped forward and placed her hand over his chest. Her touch was warm, and sudden memories that were not as filled as mine, her loneliness, her search of fear, and her trust in him. He lowered his head. All right, he whispered, I accept. That night the village came alive with celebration. Light flowed through the air, and waves music filled the valley, created by instruments grown from crystal, and plant children danced, elders told stories, and Zaya sat beside Darren now, wearing a crown woven from star petals and silver branches. The elder woman approached one final time. Do you understand now? A little, Darren replied quietly. She smiled. Sometimes the trials we pass are the ones we never knew we were taking. Darren nodded. And what now? You stay if you wish, he said, or you return to the stars and tell your people what you found. He looked at Zaya, who was laughing with other children, then looked to the stars above. I think I'll stay. Years passed. Under Zaya's leadership and Darren's guidance, the village thrived. New generations grew up hearing the tale of the human who walked the jungle with a child, never knowing he was being tested, a guardian who chose kindness over command and became part of a legacy older than his own planet. He no longer wore a uniform or carried a scanner. Instead, he walked barefoot through the village, teaching the young, helping the old, and watching the stars each night beside the girl who had once been lost but was never truly alone. Legend spread of a tribe hidden beneath twin suns, led by a child whose wisdom surpassed ages, and a man from another world whose heart proved worthy not through conquest but compassion. And so the jungle whispered their names to the wind, carrying the story forever into the stars.